Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show!
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I am your host, Michael Hansen, and I do professional things with microphones because I am a professional ring announcer and MMA cage announcer. I got a new spot in my basement recording room, and I am joined this week, as I always am, by my two friends who bring MMA punditry to new heights. Joining us on the left side of your screens from New York, Mark Priaulx. What's up, buddy?
What's happening, boys? I used to have the best paraphernalia behind me on this show. Now I'm just getting absolutely dominated by Mike, so that's fun. I think you went with professional 2 weeks in a row, so you're slipping. So everyone, please note that. I could be wrong, but I think you're slipping.
I think you're right.
But yeah, man, what an eventful night on Saturday. Can't wait to talk about it. We're gonna give you guys our last preview of 2021 because MMA is going to go on a little bit of a hiatus after this card, but we will be back to recap it. We're going to be here doing some shows, give you guys some cool stuff. So we're not going on hiatus. We may take one day in there around Christmas or something, but we will be here even though MMA will not. So tune in.
That is right. That is right. And joining us on the right side of your screens from the Sunshine State, Omar Artola. What's going on, bud?
You know, I got an idea for you. How about you do one word from every letter every week?
Oh, that's a good idea.
And start with A next week.
I like that.
It's like one of those murder mystery series.
Yeah, that's happening. I'm with that.
Okay.
I'm okay.
You've been outvoted, Mike. Your vote doesn't
matter. Well, gentlemen, we have quite the pay-per-view card to discuss. UFC 269, Oliveira versus Poirier this past weekend. My, oh my, it was a stacked card, one of the more stacked cards that we've discussed since the inception of this podcast and this show. And it lived up to the hype, guys. It was a lot of great fights throughout the night. So let's run down this show. We're going to first start with our first segment, as we always do, on the marquee. Then we're going to recap some other fights from this past weekend. We're going to hop into our lightning round. We're going to take a visit with our Priaulx rankings and see who rose and who fell on the heels of this pay-per-view. We're going to go inside the MMA sphere and see what's going on in the news and the headlines with Omar. And then we're going to look ahead to this weekend, UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Daukaus. Before we get into any of that, guys, let us now thank our audience for joining us and remind our audience, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video, share this video with a friend who might not know about the show yet. And of course, subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an episode. If you want audio only, we got you. Find us wherever you get your podcasts and new MMA show. And of course, find us on social media at @&new_MMA show. Hit us up. All right, let's get into this. Guys, our first segment on the marquee. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Julianna Pena. That is right. The co-main event took the spot this week. The Venezuelan vixen submitted the GOAT, Amanda Nunes, in the second round. Rear naked choke after pretty much battering the champ. Mark, let me start with you. What in God's name is your initial reaction to this unbelievable upset from Julianna Pena?
I don't know. I don't know. Julianna Pena, the bantamweight champion of the world. Freaking crazy. I mean, what am I supposed to say? How does one analyze this? I cannot believe that this happened. I still don't understand what I watched. What an unreal moment for Julianna Pena. Nunes was made to look entirely human. She was gassing. She was sloppy. She seemed rattled. I really think Pena's pre-fight talk and confidence may have played a big role. Like, I really do. I think that there was doubt in Amanda's mind that was dying to creep out just from how confident Pena was, that there was a little bit that was created in Nunes's mind that made her say, like, man, like, why is this girl so damn confident? Like, is there something I'm not seeing where she's going to have my number? And I think that she was crushing that doubt, but I think it was dying to creep out. And I think that in fight, as soon as it got tough in there, that doubt just exploded because it seemed like Amanda was just gone. Like she didn't look anything like herself. I mean, Julianna Pena is a woman who got subbed by Jermaine Durandamy, like not that long ago, of all people. And for her to do that to Amanda Nunes is just beyond my ability to explain in any technical terms. Like they stood there and threw bombs. Somehow Pena's boxing was inexplicably better than Nunes. Pena's power was inexplicably more than Nunes. Nunes was getting hurt. Pena wasn't getting hurt. I don't know. It was just one of those nights in MMA where you cannot figure out how something happened the way that it happened. And I give so much credit to Pena. She believed from the beginning. She did exactly what she said she was going to do. She broke her like she said she was going to break her. It sounded almost laughable, and it happened exactly how she said it was going to happen. So what an achievement. One of the best upsets I can remember in my life of watching MMA, and props to Julianna Pena.
Omar, take us through the emotional roller coaster that was the first round of this fight, especially compared to the second round of the fight.
I need to start by saying I talked wild shit last week. But
I think everyone did.
Of course.
I may have taken some liberties here and there, right? I'm fully aware I was talking some wild shit last week. It's been a long time since I felt like I've really eaten a bowl of shit. This was one of those times.
Well, everybody did, dudes. I bet so many people took a bath.
Dude, but I had one of my I'll not to cut you off, Omar. One of my boys, I'll shout him out here, Matt Patron. If he listens this week, he'll be happy. Was texting groups I was in all day long, like, boys, be ready. Julianna Pena is beating Amanda Nunes tonight. And he's normally the guy who like laughs if anyone mentions that someone's going to beat Nunes, and he was saying it all day long.
And he believed it. He believed it. How can you say that with like any level of confidence?
But yeah.
It's also the thing though that makes MMA probably the greatest sport, in my opinion, is just how much shit everybody was talking, how sure everybody was, and just when you're wrong, how good you still feel at the end of that fight. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing greater than MMA when it comes to that shit. I don't know. I love the moment regardless of how. I love being wrong when it comes to MMA because that just means I probably saw something fucking amazing, which we did. To take you through the first round, so there were a lot of things that I saw that to me led me to believe that Julianna was ready for Amanda in a lot of different respects, and Amanda went in there way overconfident, way underestimating what Julianna really brought to the table. She gave her credit. She spoke a lot of things that were really positive and said she was a warrior. She knew she was a warrior. I'm sure you did, but the reality was skill for skill, you didn't take her seriously. And the one thing that if you go back and you watch it now, the jab, every time Amanda came in and tried to push forward for any kind of hook, Julianna hit her with a solid jab. There were times where she hit her 3 times in a row while Nunes was trying to throw something, and the jab stunned her every time, pushed her back, kept her on her back foot. And the thing that I noticed was throughout the first round, through most of the first round, Amanda was behind a step. When you're talking about the rhythm of a fight, Amanda was not on rhythm. She was not on beat. She was behind almost that entire fight. And in my head, I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, why don't you just take a second, first of all, stop throwing punches, reset, and, try to get back into the rhythm, try to get back into a groove that works for you. But she was just getting crazy. I don't think she was really thinking at that point. I think all that was going through her head, I would imagine, was if I hit her once really good, I can knock her out.
Absolutely.
And to Julianna's credit, man, I mean, let's be real. Julianna hit Amanda a lot, and Amanda hit Julianna just as much. Julianna stumbled a couple times,
Yep.
Julianna's face looks like somebody hit her with a stick. Julianna can take a punch, and she can take a punch very well. But the difference wasn't the power. The difference was the volume. And the fact that Julianna was able to put so many punches together just overwhelmed Amanda and anything that Amanda had going on. It's one of the best representations of we had a game plan up until you got punched in the face. And whatever Amanda had going on, whatever game plan Amanda had, which, to be honest, I don't think she had a game plan. I think she really thought she was going to go in there and just whatever got thrown at her, she'd be able to deal with and just knock her out.
Yeah.
There was no game plan. Julianna had everything game planned out up until what is she going to do? If she throws a hook, I'm going to hit her with a jab. She tries to throw another hook, I'm going to hit her with a jab. If she throws this, I'm going to duck under and go for a takedown. She had everything planned out so that when those reactions were happening, they weren't something that was in the moment. She was very prepared for everything that was going on.
Yeah.
It was honestly one of the greater performances because of how much work I would imagine Julianna really put into this fight. The rematch is where I think it's going to be interesting because I think this was really just an issue of Amanda not being prepared and allowing herself to get bullied. And to Julianna's credit, I think she said in an interview, Amanda doesn't do well when she's bullied. When she's the bully, she's fantastic. Yeah. But when she's the one that's getting bullied and overwhelmed, she withers.
Bully the bully.
You know, it showed here. She has losses in the past that Julianna referred to, but as far as the most latest loss after she's been pound for pound and all this other stuff, she wilted and she gave that neck and there wasn't really much fight once we got into that neck. It was, I think she was done. She was done long before. She was done long before that happened.
Mark, let me bring you back in here. Where do you rank this as an all-time upset?
So I just want to ask Omar real quick first.
Oh yeah.
Have you only watched that fight once, or did you rewatch it?
I only watched it once.
I only watched.
That was great technical analysis early on in your comments there for having only watched that fight live. Like I watched that fight live, and I can't tell you shit that happened because I was just freaking out the whole time. Like that was what you pay a lot of attention.
Omar is the LeBron James.
What the fuck?
He's the LeBron James of MMA analysts.
I love technique, man. I just because I like to do a lot of this shit and I like to take a lot of shit for myself if I can, but I love technique and I'm always looking at it. And I just honestly, I'm one of those. I replay shit in my head. The Condit versus GSP moment, if you know what I'm talking about.
I sure do.
Yeah, it's right here.
Just
constantly on loop.
Take that all in while that craziness was happening. Like in another fight, I'd be like, yeah, but in the watching Pena beat Nunes, I couldn't even think straight.
Yeah, it was wild. It was a wild night.
Where would it rank in upsets? Boy, home Rousey feels similar. It's tough. Like you look back on it now and you want to say like this one was bigger because we know that Nunes since trounced Rousey. But like at the time, it really didn't feel like Ronda could lose. Those are similar. I think Sarah over GSP is probably still number one. I mean, I don't know. There's probably one or two I'm forgetting.
No, I think you're right about that, to be honest. I mean, the when you're getting down to these kind of things, I feel like nuances matter. And Sarah was cut from the UFC.
Yeah.
Had a second chance by going through Tough.
Yep.
And even when he won Tough, no one in their right mind was giving Sarah any fucking chance to beat GSP. Even at that point, GSP was GSP.
I'm confident that's number one. I just meant I wonder if I'm forgetting any that are also ahead.
No, I think
other than maybe home.
Well,
I mean, TJ over Barao was pretty good.
I mean, I think TJ.
I don't think so.
I don't know if TJ over Barao is the greatest upset. It's my favorite upset of watching it because it was also Dillashaw, his coming out party and like in unlocking this new level of ability with Bang Muay Thai. Rousey getting pieced up by Holly Holm was different because it was like, oh, Holly is dominating Ronda. Whereas with this fight with Pena beating Nunes, there was that danger was there the whole time, which is why my hands were just on my head Because surely, I think everyone thought what I think Nunes was feeling of like, surely one of my punches is going to just level her.
Yes, exactly that. When they got into the slugfest, I was like, okay, well, like this was crazy for a bit, but Pena's now in a slugfest with Amanda Nunes, and this is only going to go one way.
Yeah.
And then it went the other way. It's like, I mean, Nunes got in you're talking about the bullying, like Cyborg tried to bully Nunes.
Yep.
And Nunes put her the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense. If Cyborg fought Pena today, I would pick Cyborg in a second. Like, yes. I can't explain.
But I think the biggest...
I'd pick Nunes in a rematch, too. Like,
the biggest difference, though, is I think the technique and how it was kind of offered, right? Like, the bullying that Cyborg offered was basically the same thing that Amanda was offering, was these big, looping, crazy hooks.
Yes.
Amanda was piecing her up technically with everything that she had, putting volume on her more than anything.
Julianna,
I think she threw straights way more than she threw hooks. It was just, it was a different approach, and the volume is really what made her a bully.
But it's from a person who we've never seen hurt anyone with punches before.
Oh, 100%. I know. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, I would have told you that Nunes could have stood still and ate 50 punches from Pena. Like, I don't know. But I was going to say the odds are already out, early odds on a rematch. I really? Nunes would be favored. She's favored by a shitload still. She's minus 500. Pena's plus 400.
Yeah, I would assume everybody thinks that Nunes just fucked around and just didn't take it seriously, and that if
I thought maybe it'd be like minus 300 to something, but minus 500. My God.
Yeah.
But yeah, just fucking.
My God. Well, yeah, we don't have to ask. Where does each fighter go next, because we know that the rematch is a certainty.
I will say, though, or maybe you were about to say this. I was going to say that the loser here, the big time loser, is Kayla Harrison.
Oh yeah. Great point. Great point.
The rumors were starting to fly that she was going to sign with the UFC. They had her in the crowd. Who knows if Nunes wins that fight? Maybe they were even marching Kayla into the cage. Who fucking knows what the plan was? And we'll probably never know. But that fight would have been marquee. Huge deal. They would have put out so many promos. There would have been a whole count. Like, it would have been huge. Yep. So she's the loser, like, money draw wise, and also in that her whole career so far, she has probably thought in her head, I'm going to be the girl that beats Amanda Nunes. And maybe she could be that girl, but now she's not. She would just be another girl. She wouldn't be that girl, because that girl's Julianna Pena.
So it's more so because obviously Nunes is still the 145 champ, and Kayla Harrison's not gonna go down to 35.
Oh no, of course not. Like, but it's just that fight.
It's just that this loss took a lot of wind out of the sale, out of the sale of Amanda Nunes.
It's not nearly as legendary now.
It's kind of a wet blanket on the whole situation.
If she beats Nunes now, it's like, oh, Nunes must be falling off. Like, it's not anything close. The moment was still by Julianna Pena.
It sure was. Man, oh man, this is why we watch, guys. It's moments like this.
Seriously.
Yeah. Nuts.
And
how she nails Rogan sets her up. But you just shocked the world, and she nails it with "I'm not surprised, motherfuckers." I mean,
I also love that she was like holding her 5-year-old daughter when she said that.
Yep.
I'm not usually one for people stealing other people's lines, but damn it, that was just so apropos.
Yeah.
It was
props to Rogan for setting her up for it too. It was just, everything was perfect.
Yeah, man. Anything else we want to say about either of these two warriors?
Julianna just needs the credit that she deserves, regardless of how you feel about what kind of fighter she is, and if she's technically a better fighter than Amanda and whatever other nonsense. She did. Look, that wasn't a fluke. She did work. She worked for that win, for that belt. That was a premium style ass whooping as far as I'm concerned. So,
and yeah, man, I don't know how much of this was game plan or how much of it was instinct in the ring, but that straight jab got her to that victory, man. 100%. She just stayed behind that straight. She kept timing it. Every time Amanda would load up, she would just pop that jab straight in. And it was like she keeps timing this jab off of Amanda's looping shots.
I also was honestly really surprised at how much better she was on the ground than Amanda was. And I don't know if that had to do with the fact that Amanda was already getting pieced up by that point.
Kind of messed up.
Yeah, but even in the beginning, even at the end of the first round, though, just how it was still, there didn't really seem to be a real fight from Amanda when it came to the ground. Julianna was all over her, and I was expecting more defense from Amanda, I guess, in general. It just didn't happen.
No.
So I don't know how true this is because, fighters say things, but Pena has actually said since, she was like, I don't know how much it translated like over video to people watching, but I was taking the arm in round one. She was like, the Kimura was over if Nunes moved. She was like, if you notice, Nunes doesn't move for the whole whatever it was I don't remember, last 30 seconds, less whatever. She was like, because it was
really
over. I had it, and Nunes
I've not heard this.
Not move.
Really? And,
Yeah,
and remind me, yeah, because I don't have Omar's photographic memory.
He was
that
and had reached over for the Kimura grip, and that was kind of just chilling.
And that took them to the bell,
I think, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
That part I'd have to watch again.
Yeah, I wish I could rewatch these friggin' fights. Usually I could because I would have bought the pay-per-view, but my shit glitched and I got the pay-per-view for free. But now I can't rewatch it because the glitch is over.
I mean, what I remember about that moment is that I just saw watching that Nunes was somewhat safe and was just kind of like stalling, riding it out.
Exactly what I thought.
But Julianna was like, it was a done deal if she moved an inch, apparently. Wow. Well, hey, congratulations to Julianna Pena, the Venezuelan vixen. My goodness, the new, it's in line with the name of this show, guys. She is the new women's bantamweight champion. Congrats to her. I'm sure Amanda Nunes will be back and might just really put it on her in the next fight, but we'll see. I'm definitely going to watch.
This moment will never go away.
Yeah, man. Yeah, one of the greatest upsets ever in the sport. Let's move on, guys, because that was the co-main event, which stole the spotlight, stole the marquee from the main event, in which Charles Oliveira retained the UFC lightweight title, submitting Dustin Poirier in the earlier moments of round number 3. Let us discuss this fight. It's no secret that I'm a huge Dustin Poirier fan, as many people are. I've been following this guy since his featherweight days. He's one of my favorite fighters, and man, I'm just gutted for this guy. He was so close in that first round. Omar, let me start with you. What were your impressions of Oliveira's resilience in that first round and the moments in the second round? Well, overall, what were your overall impressions?
Yeah, I mean, you got to give Oliveira credit for his chin too. I mean, he took a lot of shots. He dropped a few times, but at the end of the day, he kept fighting and was able to fight through. Dustin tried to finish him. I don't think at any point he wasn't through that whole first round trying to get him out of there. Didn't gas himself out doing it, but at the same time, that's got to be killer not to be able to get him out of there after dropping him that many times. And I would imagine part of that was, part of the reason why he also probably stayed very calm and very collected during the second round, even though he was on the ground the whole time, on the bottom the whole time. I know he said he didn't really want to fight from the bottom and try to move and change position from the bottom and potentially give up his back and give up position, because Charles is obviously very good on the ground, but that doesn't really seem to be the answer either. That can't be the answer to how to deal with that. It just seemed like by the end of the first round, Dustin was starting to have some doubts about where that fight was going. And I think once we got into the second round, it was even more so. And it was just the beginning of the end, especially once Charles got a hold of all of his limbs.
Yeah, man. Mark, let's bring you in here. What were your impressions of Garbrandt getting it done?
So my heart breaks for Dustin Poirier. Love the guy. Who knows if there's going to be a title in his future or not after this one. But can we please just take a second to acknowledge that my boy, Charles Garbrandt Oliveira, is now the undisputed best lightweight on planet Earth.
Absolutely.
Charles debuted in the UFC in 2010. And for the first 7 or so years of his career, every time he put a run together, he would lose. There was a time not terribly long ago where this man lost 4 out of 6 fights. When he got TKO'd by Paul Felder in 2017, that made it 4 out of 6 losses. Mm-hmm. Since that time, all he's done is gone 10-0 and become the undisputed lightweight champion of the world. I mean, he's a guy who always had the talent inside of him. You could see it, and he got turned back and turned back and turned back, and he never quit, and he grew, and he never lost sight of where he thought he could be. And it's just incredible that this guy's here. And as good as I am for Dustin, I'm thrilled for Charles and the level that he has now found himself at.
Yeah.
As for the fight, as you said, Dustin looked great early. He was putting it on Charles in round one. I wasn't terribly worried because we've seen Charles' ability to take damage. And I feel like I don't know, a lot of the shots, his facial expression, even though you could tell that it was hurting him, I was like, oh, he's okay. He was very calm throughout it. So I kind of never felt like, ooh, this might be about to end right now. But Dustin was certainly giving it to him. And real quick side note, circling back to the first episode we ever did of this show, another perfect example of how the Dustin Conor fight was unresolved, because Dustin put it on Charles just as much as he put it on Conor, and then Dustin loses. So again, it's what happens in MMA.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in round two, it all changes. Charles found his way to the top. Dustin, as Omar said, he decided he'd rather kind of try to stay still and survive rather than scramble and risk getting tapped. And I think maybe part of it was that he wasn't expecting to be ground and pounded the way that he was. Like, that was some serious freaking ground and pounding from Charles Oliveira.
That was scary.
So I'm not sure Dustin anticipated taking that type of a beating. And by the time he was probably like, fuck, maybe I'll just get to the bell now. Like, get me out of here. So, yeah, I mean, that certainly changed the fight. And then when round three happened, Charles got inside while standing, just like I thought he could, slipped to the back like I thought he could. Dustin maybe thought he was a little safer than he was with his neck. Like I mentioned, he's prone to do. He wasn't quite going as maybe desperate as he should have been to try to protect that neck there. And before he knew it, it was too late. It was over.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Charles has matured into such a dangerous fighter, and it's just awesome to see. It's his mental game as well as his physical game. He's made these strides, and he's going to be a handful for anyone in this division right now.
Omar, in the second round, there was a moment of controversy in this title fight, and I am saying this as a sour Dustin Poirier fan. It appeared that there was an illegal glove tape grab. What was the submission he was going for? Was it Gogoplata? Omoplata.
Omoplata, yeah.
It was an omoplata, yeah.
Poirier would try to slip his arm out, and it appeared like his arm was stuck. And the broadcast team kind of pointed it out like it looked like he might have been grabbing him by the tape, which is illegal, sticking his fingers into the glove. They weren't sure. And then Poirier rolled because he couldn't escape. And then the rest of the round continued, and he got elbowed into oblivion. And then at some point during that round, I remember the broadcast team, as the ground and pound was happening, looked at it again on their own monitors. And Rogan seemed to say like, yep, he did it. Maybe they viewed it in slow motion or viewed it close up or just a second time. And they seemed to be pretty conclusive about it. And then they never really mentioned it again. I mean, it has been mentioned by a few pundits and analysts since. But it's not, not like anything's going to happen. Not like they're going to overturn the fight because of a moment of, an illegal move like that. What would your take on that, Omar? And how much do you think it affected the trajectory of the fight?
I mean, excuse me. Realistically, if you look at kind of the way that the fight was going, even if he was able to get another takedown somewhere along the line, it doesn't seem like anything would have changed as far as Dustin's ability to get back up. I didn't really see the glove grab, to be honest. I did see the position they were in. I didn't see his fingers go inside, like hooking inside. I did see him grabbing around the glove area, around the seam area.
Yeah.
But I didn't see him like vertically inside the glove. If that was the case, if that forced him to roll as an illegal move, that does suck, because that was basically a whole round that was a result of something that was illegal. But again, just kind of looking the way the third round went, I really don't think it would have made a difference in the end. Obviously MMA is MMA, things can go crazy all the time, but just based on all that, I think at the end of the day, I don't really think it would have changed the trajectory in the end.
Mark, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I feel kind of the same. I have looked at a few replays and angles of this, and I'm yet, while it certainly could have happened, I'm yet to see a view or angle, video or picture, that actually shows like, oh, the fingers are definitely in the glove. There's certainly images where you can see it's clearly wrist control because you see his fingers. Then there's others where the fingers look a little hidden, but it's like the type of angle where I'm like, well, they could still be right there. Like there's nothing showing like they're definitely inside the glove. So did it happen? I don't know, because you can't tell from these images. That's why it threw me off that Rogan was so sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they showed the replay, I was like, maybe they are. Like, I don't know. I feel like you can't tell from what we have seen. So, like Omar said, if they were in there, yeah, that sucks. Also, I'm not sure if it would necessarily have changed the outcome of the fight. I'm sure you could make the argument like, well, they would have never gone to the ground. They would have been standing. Maybe Poirier puts it on him more. Like, who knows? But I'm not convinced enough that there was any fingers inside the glove for me to make that big of a deal out of it. And if they were, it looked like they were not even in there for very long, because I feel like for most of the time you could see them on the side. So for me, it's not something I'm making a huge deal out of.
Interesting though, that in the fight against McGregor, Poirier, he knew it and he pointed it out that McGregor was sinking his fingers into the tape. And this time Poirier was like, he himself said, I don't know if he was or not, which is kind of interesting.
Yes.
So, apparently the only reason he even knew about it was because Mike Brown brought it up to him. It wasn't even something that he knew was going on until it was brought up.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. You think that he would know that?
If it happened, you would imagine. But at the end of the day, it's also the middle of a fight. Who the hell knows what's going on there?
Yeah. I mean, either way, that second round really changed the trajectory of the fight. I mean, Poirier ate a lot of nasty elbows on his back. He ate them well. Maybe he had a great poker face. I do think that second round of ground and pound is what set up the beginning of the very beginning of the third round. He just sort of lackadaisically let his back get taken in a standing position, and the fight was pretty much a wrap.
I really didn't like the way that he dealt with that second round. I understand why he did it, but the problem is when you're 100% defensive like that and you're not really presenting any kind of offense, all you're doing is telling your opponent, give whatever you want to try, because I'm not going to do shit about it. And so Charles is just racking his face full of framing and palming, pushing down all which kinds of ways,
covering his mouth.
mean, he was doing whatever he wanted to Dustin, because all Dustin wanted to do was hold on to him and try to create as little distance between them as humanly possible. Right. But the reality was, from the bottom, you are never going to have more leverage than somebody on top using his frame to push down on your body and up on his. It's physically impossible. It's not going to happen unless the guy on the bottom has like maybe 100 pounds or plus on you. No one is going to have that kind of leverage over somebody else like that. So I didn't really care for the fact that he didn't realize that, like within the first minute or two of him deciding to do this, that he just rode out the rest of the round, taking that kind of damage with no real answer to it. It was frustrating to watch that second round.
I mean, his strategy to me seemed quite clear that, it sucks that I got here with him on top of me in my guard, but it's Charles Oliveira. And I'm not going to try anything stupid. I know enough about jiu-jitsu that I know that submissions happen in moments of transition. Yeah. And if you could stay there and keep a guy in your guard, other than eating some elbows, he's just going to punt the round and be like, I'm not going to get caught. I'm not going to give up my back.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying necessarily my thing, especially with guys in bottom ground position, bottom full guard, especially if you're going to stay there, if you're going to just keep somebody there, if you don't want them passing or whatever else, at least hit them with some elbows. There are things you can do from the bottom without having to basically just completely give up the game. But if you're going to present no offense, again, all you're doing is just give as much offense as you're not doing. You're giving the exact amount of offense to the person on top of you. There needs to be some sort of repercussion for you getting hit. You can't just let somebody tee off on you and control you for 4 minutes. There has to be some kind of other answer or something else that you can do in those moments, whether it's elbows or something.
Where do we think these guys go from there? Let's transition now. I mean, Oliveira's the champ. We'll see who he matches up with next. Let's first talk about Dustin Poirier. I have heard him say in certain interviews that as of right now, he nothing really excites him except for Nate Diaz, which would be an interesting
Did he really
fight.
say that?
He did.
Yeah.
That was my fucking bold suggestion.
Let's hear it, Mark.
That.
Why do you want to see him fight Nate Diaz?
So the reason I was going to say it was more so this. It was that, like, obviously he could fight a lightweight since he is a lightweight. He could fight Chandler. That story writes itself. He could fight Tony Ferguson or Raphael dos Anjos, like, guys who have kind of been around as long as he has that he's never crossed paths with. Those are interesting. I'm just not sure, and I guess backed up now by what you're saying, I was going to say I'm not sure that he goes for those right now. Like, he seemed very post-fight. I'm talking about, like, he was almost like, I kind of got to decide if I want to keep doing this. Like, I got to decide if I'm still excited. So, like, when I hear that and then think about him getting presented with, like, Tony Ferguson or Dos Anjos or even Chandler, I'm like, man, I don't know if he is really, like, jumping at those things. Like, obviously he could wait and do a fourth Conor fight and get paid again. But I also feel like he kind of has sounded like he's, like, done with that. So that's why in my head, I was like, I had kind of two ideas. I was like, he has talked about before going up to 170, how he doesn't love this weight cut. He always makes it, but he always says it's hard. So I was like, honestly, if this guy's looking for something to excite him, it wouldn't shock me if he goes to 170 and either A, settles the grudge with Colby Covington, because there's a lot of bad blood there, and that'd be a huge fight, and one that I think Colby would probably accept, or B, finally plays out this years-long back-and-forth shit talk and also gets paid a lot because Nate Diaz with Nate Diaz. They've just beefed for so long. They go at each other on Twitter constantly. They were supposed to fight. It fell off. It's a payday for Dustin. It struck me as something that I could see get his juices flowing. And now from what you just told me, I guess that's accurate. So yeah. I could certainly see that. Plus, Nate needs a fight. The UFC doesn't want to give him Luke Gay, I guess, for whatever reason. I thought that fight was going to get booked 100 times already. He's still sitting there.
My God, Luke Gay's
like, that fight works.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I have one little pet theory about this is related to the title fight that just happened with Oliveira. Do you guys see the moment when Oliveira came into the cage, he didn't just dap up Poirier, but he stopped and hugged Poirier and like dapped up Poirier's whole team. My theory is this: Dustin Poirier is a dog. And I think Dustin Poirier fights at his best when there's a little bit more of that street fight element of a fight. It becomes more of a brawl. I think that the high level of respect between him and Oliveira, I don't know if it got in his head per se, but it just, I don't know. I think he was kind of out of his natural element. And I think that related to that is what he says of like, as of right now, I've climbed to the top of the mountain. I've touched the summit with my fingertips and haven't gotten to stand on the summit. It's because not a lot of these other guys, he just can't get up for it anymore, except for Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is a guy who's going to get in his face, who's going to want to bully him, who's going to want to tell him to go fuck himself. And Poirier's got that Lafayette dog in him, who's going to be like, oh, this gets me up. I like this. I don't know. That's my take.
I'm with that. I will slightly counter it with that. He was like best friends with Conor for the number 2 fight and he knocked him out. But
yeah,
I do see your point and I do feel that vibe. And I agree that Nate is a fight where, Dustin's at a point in his career where he has to convince himself that he wants to, go to that gym and put in the work. And, does he want to do it all over again? Try to get to the title all over again. And an easy way, even if he did say, I'm going to come back to lightweight, I think I can still be the champ. An easy way to get that started is Nate Diaz being put in his head. I think that gets him back on the horse. And then if he wins, we could be back on a run again.
But would that fight be at welterweight?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, and then you're saying he's going to go off that on another lightweight run or a welterweight run?
No, maybe he would just stay at welterweight. I'm saying, I just said, who knows? Maybe he'd even come back to lightweight. But that fight would be at welterweight 100%.
Yeah, as of right now, it sounds like Dustin Poirier doesn't really care to go back to 155. He's made it pretty clear that he'd rather go up at this point.
Did he say that?
Yeah, it seems like his whole thing was his weight cut to get to where he was at for 150. I think he weighed 154 and a half, right? For that fight.
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
I think so.
So he said his weight cut went really well, and it's because he did everything he needed to do throughout camp. But he's not about starving himself throughout camp anymore, is really what he was at. That he'd rather just, train and things like that with the proper calories, because he's basically always training at half speed because he's starving himself to get there. So it sounds like he'd rather go up. What's really interesting right now is that Eagle FC is like, listen, we know that you're with the UFC, but like, if you don't want to be, we got something for you over here.
Yeah, man.
So that might be interesting to see maybe somewhere down the line. But as of right now, if he does take any fights in the near future, he's bummed out right now, so it might be a lot of emotions talking, but it seems like he's trying to go for 170 for now.
I'll tell you what, if this man is still trying to be a champion and he feels like he's sick of doing the cut to 155 and that he's not sure where he stands in line, if he commits to 170, takes the Nate fight and beats Nate, I could absolutely see them follow that victory up with saying, okay, we're going to do you in Covington. And if he wins that fight, he's probably fighting Usman.
Do you see him feeding
a pretty quick freaking...
You see Dustin beating the top 5 at 170?
So it depends who they are. I do think he could beat Covington. I don't know that I'd pick him, but I think he could. Because Covington is small.
He's not a big Covington is not a big welterweight, but Usman, I would fear, would crush him.
Oh, I wouldn't pick him against Usman either. I'm just saying he would get another chance.
I think Usman kills him. I think Burns kills him. Honestly,
Burns would be real. I'd pay a lot of money for that matchup.
Yeah, I think Burns ruins him. I think Luque also fucks him up too, to be honest.
All these guys we're mentioning are bigger guys.
That's Luque's what I mean.
Like Burns is not terribly big either,
but he's a thick guy.
Like he's not big. Only like 5'9". But
maybe we're saying this because we haven't seen Poirier at 170, but in my head, these guys are bigger than Poirier, man. Like that shit, and they're gonna hit different. They're gonna hit different. This is not gonna be the same kind of shots he's been taking in the past.
Yeah, even Luque. Luque's a much bigger guy. Luque's a 6-footer.
I'm comparing Luque and Poirier's height and reach right now.
And Leon Edwards.
Luque by 2 inches in height.
Oh, just 2? Is he 5'11"?
Yes. And 3.5 inches in reach. Yeah, that's kind of a big factor.
I think not Gilbert. Well, you just said his name. Leon. Well, I think Leon's a 6-footer. I mean, Nate is 6 feet, but Nate spent a majority of his career at lightweight.
Leon Edwards got 2 inches in reach, 3 inches in height. I mean, yeah, these guys would be bigger than him. Not Colby, though.
Not Colby. Colby's, I think, listed at 5'11", but he's more of a lean guy.
Is Colby 5'11"? Wow, I thought Colby was 5'10". I thought it was only 1 inch, but it is 2 inches. You're right. But let's see the reach. Yeah, the reach is the same.
Oh,
I'm always down to watch.
Dude, that would be a great fight. Oh my god, tremendous!
Yeah, man,
tremendous.
It could be interesting.
I just don't think we're going to see it for a little while. I think this one really took the wind out of Dustin's sail for a bit. So we'll probably have to wait for a bit for him to come back.
I'm not convinced because they still need to give Nate a fight. And maybe it just materialized out of thin air right now.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, that's it.
And then we're fucking getting Charles and Gaethje, which is going to be incredible.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely incredible.
It'll be just like this fight, probably times 2 in terms of like the sheer excitement of it. Even though Poirier knocked out Gaethje.
Yeah, I agree. For some reason, Gaethje, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because this one already happened. So it's like in the past now. But I feel like my blood is like hotter thinking about Gaethje being in there with Oliveira.
I mean, it's a different recipe for sure. Because I don't think Gaethje has the jiu-jitsu pedigree that Poirier does.
No.
So if Gaethje winds up on his back,
though,
he might be harder to take down. But if he winds up on his back with Oliveira on top of him, it might be real bad.
The scary thing about Oliveira is he doesn't need to take you down. He needs to grapple with you. That's the real difference. If he can get inside and get some kind of clinch on you of any kind, he can work from there.
But also these round ones that guys like Chandler and Dustin have gotten on Oliveira, if Gaethje gets that kind of round one, he might not let you off the hook.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I think out of all of them too, I think I would say Gaethje's probably the most accurate too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're kind of splitting hairs, but I would agree.
Yeah. I mean, we're building the fight. We're promoting.
We are. Let's start our own promotion.
Yeah.
Let us move on, guys, because we have a lot more to discuss. The next fight down on the main card in the welterweight division, Geoff Neal defeated Santiago Ponzinibbio via split decision, earning a 30-27, 29-28 on two of the scorecards, and one judge giving Ponzinibbio a 29-28. Mark, let me start with you. This was a scrap. It was a fun fight. We had Ponzinibbio, who was more of a gritty warrior, and Geoff Neal, whose boxing looked so crisp. What was your take?
Yes, I thought Geoff Neal looked pretty good in round one, and then he started to Geoff Neal things. Like, he was letting it slip away. He wasn't really pushing anything. And thank God for Safe Saud, if you're a Geoff Neal fan or better, or Geoff Neal himself, because he was doing exactly what I said he does. The reason that I couldn't pick him, he was waiting. He wasn't bringing the fight. He was letting Pons steal the momentum and letting Pons go first. And he lost round two because of it. And then Saud's speech happens before round three, and Geoff Neal comes out and fights the way he should always be fighting, and wins that round of that fight. If that Geoff Neal is the Neal who fought all the time, he would be a problem for a lot of guys. So I really do hope that was a wake-up call for him, because it was fun to watch him in round three, and it's not always fun to watch Geoff Neal. As for Pons, to me, he's still good. He just looks maybe a step less explosive than he used to before he missed all this time with these medical issues. You know, the skills are still there, but I'm not sure he can really break past that beginning part of the rankings at this point in his career.
Omar, what was your take of the fight and of Geoff Neal's performance, getting the W over a tough guy in Ponzinibbio?
Yeah, Geoff Neal needs to figure that out, because I don't think he needs. I don't think any of us want to see him continuously get verbally abused for his continued career every time he comes out of round one. There's got to be a way for him to sort of be able to turn the gas up on his own without his coach like berating him. But I mean, Marcus, he was right. I mean, the round one was a decent round, and then round two, it was like Geoff Neal was just on standby the entire time, almost as if he had won two rounds and he was coasting on the third round. Like, it was a weird decision to make for the second round. He's lucky he got the decision as far as I was concerned, and his reaction to "am I about to get screwed again" just led me to be really angry and be like, what do you mean? You did this to yourself. Like, this was your decision. You had every opportunity to make this as easy as for everybody as possible, but your bullshit led to this split decision. You have nobody to blame but yourself. Honestly, it was more of a frustrating fight than it was a fun fight, personally, for me. But hopefully we see something a little bit more consistent and aggressive from Geoff Neal in the future.
Matchups. Where do we go from here, guys? Mark, let me start with you. Where do you think Geoff Neal, where he stands right now in your rankings? Where would you like to see him go from here?
Did you say where does he stand in my rankings?
Yeah.
He stands at number 10 in my rankings.
Okay.
I'm sure he wants to fight up. I think he may have even said that in the post-fight interview, that he wanted to fight someone in the top 10. I'm just not sure who makes sense right now for him in the top 10. He already lost to Magny. He lost to Wonderboy. He's not going to fight that upper echelon of guys. I don't think Chiesa makes sense right now. I don't know if Brady makes sense right. It's like, I don't know. None of those names are like, that's the one. To me, I'd rather see him kind of try to pass another test because of these issues that we're talking about. I think someone like Daniel Rodriguez, who's up and coming and who's going to bring it to him, would be a fight that tells us something about Geoff Neal. Or you could go with a vet who's kind of similar vibe and go Robbie Lawler, who you could argue earned himself a fight with someone in the rankings by beating Nick Diaz. So you could kind of solve both by that matchup. So if it was up to me, I think Geoff Neal, Robbie Lawler would actually be a cool one.
That's cool, man. Omar, when you look at the rankings, who do you think is next for Hands of Steel, Geoff Neal?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I really like that pick. I think I like.
Yeah,
that
Mark is the matchmaker extraordinaire of this
that was a good
show.
That was a good one. Robbie Lawler just seems like that'd be a fun fight. And to be honest, for whatever Geoff Neal decides that he doesn't want to do in that fight, Robbie Lawler will beat the shit out of him for it. So,
right,
I mean,
especially the Robbie we just saw against Nick. That Robbie was freaking a killer.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
man.
That's a good pick. Yeah,
real quick, what about Ponz? Omar, let me stay with you. Where would you want to see Ponz go next?
Yeah, it's rough for Ponzinibbio at this point, right? Because like he does have. I mean, he's very skilled. You can see that he has the skills in there, but he just, when he was getting tagged, he was showing it a lot more than what Geoff Neal was. It just, I don't really know kind of where he's at this point. I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch with Jin Liang at this point, especially both of them now coming off of losses. They're kind of right there as far as rankings are concerned as well. And, you know, I know it happened already this year, but we're already 4 fights in. So,
yeah. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I wouldn't mind a little step back for him. Like he bounced back from the Jing Liang loss, beating Baeza, and they kind of threw him right back to someone in the rankings. I think a little step back would make sense. Like someone who's kind of hovering on the outside right now, like a Nico Price or Tim Means or Randy Brown, like one of these guys who are kind of in the mix, but they haven't got their shot at a ranked guy. I think that type of fight, maybe it makes more sense for Ponz right now.
Okay.
Randy Brown's not bad.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, let's keep marching down this UFC 269 pay-per-view main card in the flyweight division. Kai Kara-France welcomed Cody Garbrandt to the flyweight division with a bang, knocking him out. Well, it was technically a TKO at 3 minutes and 21 seconds of the very first round. Omar, let me start with you. What was your impression of Kai Kara-France knocking out Cody "No Love" Garbrandt?
I loved this shit. I mean, Cody was talking all kinds of shit going into this fight and feeling himself a ton, like if his record isn't riddled with red all over the place. I personally would have preferred to see kind of a more humble Cody Garbrandt going into this fight, not calling the poor kid Steve, and just kind of just being an overall dick to this kid for no real reason. But it was nice to see Kai get that knockout, and it wasn't even like a flash knockout. He followed up with it. He cracked him a few times, dropped him at least 2 or 3 times. Solid finish, and Cody really can't say anything about it. I don't really know what you do with Cody at this point, to be honest. But I think the sky's the limit at this point for Kara-France.
Yeah, he looked good, man. Mark, what did you make of Kara-France not showing any love to Cody "No Love"?
I
had to.
Yeah, I like that.
Surprised nobody does that more often.
Yes, so I don't know if the weight cut had anything to do with it. I know I said I thought Cody would get blitzed if he wasn't properly cut down to 125, but he did look okay, honestly. So who knows? He looked like he probably did it right, but he got blitzed nonetheless. It's impossible to trust his chin at this point. It's one of the craziest falls from grace that I can remember in my life as an MMA fan. So I have it here on November 2nd. 2016, Kai Kara-France was competing on Tough and was eliminated by Alexandre Pantoja. Not 2 months later, Cody Garbrandt had one of the most memorable performances in a title fight ever and took the bantamweight belt from longtime champion Dominick Cruz. If I told you then to give me odds that the guy who just lost on Tough would KO that incredible champion within 5 years, they would have been 100-1. No. That's MMA. And that's why we're here, and that's why we watch this sport.
Yeah, man. Kara-France looks good, man. He can crack.
Yeah, I mean, what a freaking win! The guy's a killer. He is a killer, and he's right there now. He's, he seemed to think he should get a title shot. I think he's probably 1 fight away from being able to make that claim. But he fought Moreno once already and took a round off him. It was a close fight. I think he might have even dropped Moreno if I remember right. So he's very much in the mix. That was a huge win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you think he's one win away? Where do you would want to see him match up at flyweight next?
So the reason I say one away is because I don't see how he would jump. So obviously we have Figueiredo fighting Moreno. That's already happening. And then I don't see how Kai would jump either Pantoja or Askarov. So I guess maybe one of them, probably Pantoja, I would think, is going to get Moreno if he wins against Figueiredo. So like maybe Kai has to fight Askarov. I don't see how he would jump either of those guys. So I think he probably has to take a fight.
Yeah. What about you, Omar? When you look out, you see Askarov, you see Pantoja, you see Alex Perez, you see Royval. Who do you like for next for Car France?
Honestly, I think this would be a perfect time to set up the Pantoja fight. Pantoja had a fight lined up at some point before that his knee injury kind of had him withdraw from. He was pretty much right at the title fight as well with Moreno. I think that's a perfect fight. That's a perfect lead up, especially for a rematch. No matter who wins, I think that's a perfect fight leading up to the championship fight, because I'm pretty sure my boy Brandon's going to walk away with a belt again. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to put that in there. Team Moreno, Absolutely. Baby.
Yeah, man. You and everybody else. Let us keep marching down unless you guys have anything else you want to say about Cody No Love.
I just wanted to say what I feel like you have to do with Cody at this point.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know what you do with him.
So he's now lost 5 out of 6 fights. So it's a hard question. Like, what do you do with the guy who was a former champion and had this much, marketing behind him at one time, was this big of a star, and he's lost 5 out of 6 fights and he keeps getting knocked out? It's tricky, but the way he was talking about flyweight and how he made this cut and everything, it did sound like he's going to stay there. So if it's me, I'm booking him as follows. I'm putting him either on a pay-per-view prelim or on a fight night card, something where there's not a ton of eyes. It's a quiet booking. I'm not making a big deal about the announcement. I'm not doing a promo on it. He's not on freaking embeddeds, none of it. And I'm putting him in against someone who doesn't have knockout power, someone who's good, but doesn't have knockout power. So I make him show me that he can win like a no fanfare fight against a style matchup that he should beat. Because if he can't, I think that's probably the end of the road of Cody Garbrandt. So my personal choice, looking at flyweight, would be someone like Tim Elliott. I think that kind of solves exactly what I was just describing. There's other guys that fit that bill, like maybe Matt Schnell, someone like that. But I think Elliott kind of works just as a kind of an under the radar test where Cody doesn't have to worry about the knockout. Let's make sure he can still beat someone relevant. And if he can't, it's probably time to wash our hands here.
Man, oh man. Great take, dude. Let us go down now to the next bout, which, Sugar Sean O'Malley gets in another impressive first round finish, defeating Raulian Paiva by TKO at 4 minutes and 42 seconds of the very first round. Mark, let me start with you on this one. Sugar Sean, the Sugar Show continues. What was your take on a very impressive first round knockout by Sugar Sean O'Malley?
Yeah, there's not a ton to say. Honestly, it's almost like these, other than Matino who pushed him, it's almost like you just run the tape and it's like the same Sean O'Malley performance time after time. He showed exactly the same level of dominance. And I have not been someone who's like quick to anoint him, but when you move up in skill of opponent, as he did here, and put on the exact same show you've been putting on, you kind of got to take notice. So it's the next one for O'Malley that should really officially let us know exactly what we have. But we are here now. He has cracked the UFC rankings. I saw he's number 13 in my own. He's moved to number 15. So this is it. We're here now. The next booking will probably be the one where it's like, okay, is it Sean O'Malley time or not?
Yeah. I thought Paiva looked good in the early moments of that first round. I thought he was game. I thought he was like, I'm right here. We're going to do this.
Oh yeah, he is game. If there's anything Paiva is, that's what he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Omar, let me bring you in here. What was your take in your initial reaction to Sugar Sean continuing the Sugar Show?
Yeah, I mean, to Paiva's credit, it didn't really look like he was out of the fight before he walked in there. I feel like a lot of guys kind of know what to expect from O'Malley at this point, and I think some of them get a little too discouraged by the time they've gotten into the cage. But Paiva was definitely game. I don't think he was scared, to strike with him. But the skill I think was vastly different. I think the management of distance is really what Sean O'Malley brings to the table. That's just so fucking spectacular. Like and honestly, it was one thing that Conor McGregor was really good at was being able to manage the distance early on in his MMA run when he was, working his way up to 145. He used his front kicks, his teeps to keep that distance, to measure distance. Yeah. O'Malley is very good at using a 1-2 combination and being able to move in and out, continuously using the 1-2 combination to follow up. He's very, very good at those light movements back and forth, left and right, very good lateral movement. I love watching him fight just because of those things. He really puts the boxing aspect of boxing into play, where he's literally using his shots to keep these guys boxed in when they're against the fence. And so when you saw Paiva, eventually get pressured back and against the cage, you saw O'Malley just let loose a bunch of shit, and it ended up being, left hand, right hand, and just kind of keeping Paiva just bouncing back and forth between this phone booth, this box. And it was really a perfect representation of what perfect boxing really can be when utilized right. And it was fantastic. And I felt bad for Paiva's skull at that point, because I don't know if you guys noticed, O'Malley, after he knocked him out and, was celebrating and, all that stuff, he went back to shake Paiva's hand. Paiva got up, shook his hand, thanked everybody. When he went to go sit back down, Paiva immediately started falling forward because
I did not know that.
He had zero equilibrium in his brain. Zero. Wow. And he tipped forward. The guys, like the referee and the officials or whatever, had to catch him and sit him back down on the stool. But
jeez,
O'Malley is not one to play with, man. O'Malley, if say what you want about everything else, the kid's hands are a problem. His kicks are a problem. His timing and his range are a problem. They need to be taken seriously.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Let's keep marching down this card, guys, unless you guys have anything else you want to say about Sean O'Malley.
The one thing to keep in mind is Sean's hand is fucked up now. I don't know if it's broken or exactly what's wrong with it, but it sounds like he's going to be out until June of this upcoming year.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's a little bit of a hamper on his move here. I was just going to say that. So see, this point kind of changes because now he gets to have these some of these bantamweight fights play out if he's really out that long. But I was going to say it's kind of like some guys are paired together already. I would have loved to match him with Marlon Moraes as his ranked fighter. I know Moraes is on a losing streak. I'm not sure if O'Malley would love it, but I just love the idea of another guy who's a killer standing across from O'Malley, and they're both round one knockout guys, and just see how O'Malley handles that pressure. He would obviously have a big size advantage, so maybe he would be interested because he would probably feel like he could get another highlight. But I would be into that. I think that would be a cool test of where O'Malley's at.
Yeah. If he's entering in the high teens at 13, 14, 15, they're going to match him up with a guy who's right around 10. And then if he wins that fight impressively, then they're going to match him up with number 5 and then off to the races.
Yeah. UFC official rankings for him, they have him at 13 right now.
Bingo.
Yeah. If he beat a guy like that, like Moraes, that the floodgates would open. He would be to the moon. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, let's keep marching down now. In the prelims, in the featherweight division, Josh Emmett defeated Dan 50K Ige by unanimous decision, getting it done, earning a 29-28 on 2 scorecards and a 30-27 on the other. Omar, let me start with you. This was a fun scrap. This was a great one of the fights on this card that I was most looking forward to. What were your impressions of Josh Emmett getting the W?
Yeah, this was a scrap for sure. Josh Emmett is scary. His power is terrifying. Even watching it on TV is just, I did not want to be Dan Ige in that moment. It just, every punch that was thrown, every punch that was ducked under just looked like was going to mess Dan Ige up if it landed the wrong way. Credit to Dan Ige, though, for being able to move away from a lot of those punches. He took a lot of damage in that fight, too. It was a very solid fight from Josh Emmett as far as his being able to control and really show that he dominated, I think, a majority of that fight. I'm not really sure. I'm honestly not really sure what you do with Dan Ige right now. But I would love to see what happens with Josh Emmett, especially him coming back from that. It was an injury, right? That he came back from?
Yeah, actually, while you were talking, I was trying to remember what his injury was.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But I can't remember what it was. Absolutely an injury, though, and it was a rough injury. I just am blanking on what it was.
Probably a knee.
You can look while
recovering from a litany of injuries to his left leg, including an ACL tear. So it sounds like his leg was tore up. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that fight went pretty much exactly how I thought it would. Like Ige was maybe winning it more of the time, but Emmett was landing the more noteworthy shots and having the bigger moments, and that got him the nod. Like, I do think it was close, but I do think it was the right score. Watching live, I haven't had a minute to rewatch it, which I'd still like to do because it certainly was close. But I thought Emmett edged rounds 1 and 3 because of the bigger shots, the bigger moments. It's a great win for him. I don't think it changes either guy's standing hugely. Really what it does is for Emmett, it gets him into the realm of a possible big opponent now, coming off that win. Featherweight is kind of another division where it's almost like we got to kind of wait to see how some things play out for me to like necessarily have a suggestion for Emmett. I mean, you could do Zombie maybe right now, but I think maybe let that one play out a little bit. For Ige, I'm sure the UFC is not going to do this because I feel like they never book rematches. I would love to just run the Barbosa fight back. Like, so many people thought that decision went the wrong way. They're both coming off losses. They're both ranked like right near each other. I think it'd be dope to run that back and find out who the real winner is, but UFC probably won't do it.
Yeah. Let us now move on. Yeah, cool. Okay, in the bantamweight division, we had a legend get another W. Dominick Cruz defeated Pedro Munhoz by unanimous decision, earning a 29-28 on all 3 judges' scorecards. Omar, smirking. Let me start with you. What were your impressions with Cruz getting this nice W?
It was nice to see Cruz back in action, especially round 2 and round 3. I was in Mexico this past weekend watching the fights with the wife. We were taking our honeymoon and stuff, but I'm very fortunate to have a wife that loves UFC as much as I do. So this was part of our honeymoon to watch this card. And I just remember being in this hotel room, watching this fight, Dominick Cruz in round 1, not moving the way Dominick Cruz moves, and just super flat-footed. And I just remember yelling at the TV, "Move your ass!" Just so pissed off that this man is not on the front of his feet, and he's completely flat-footed the way Dominick Cruz doesn't fight. And of course, got tagged, and I didn't really expect much from him for the rest of that round, just based off of the damage he had already taken. And I didn't really know what the rest of that fight was going to be, but I was super happy to see that by round 2, Dominick Cruz had found his feet and just, was slipping in and out, left and right, throwing the hooks, hitting the knee tap, just doing all the things that Dominick Cruz does well. And I think definitely by the end of that 3rd round, I was content that Dominick Cruz had won 2 out of those 3 rounds. But it was a frustrating first round. Don't get me wrong.
Mark, what were your takes of Cruz getting the win?
What a gutty win by Dominick Cruz. What I found really cool about that fight was that it was kind of like Dom's career in a nutshell. And what I mean by that is, like, it's not often that in MMA you have a guy who's kind of from another era who newer fans hear about, and they're like, okay, well, like, what made that guy so good? Like, what was his deal? And then that fighter shows you exactly his whole deal in the present moment. Like, between being so hard to put away, being so smart and so fast, and having the most frustrating footwork there is. Like, that fight was vintage Dom Cruz in every way. He toughed it out. He stayed on the game plan he believed would work. And he eventually switched Pedro Munhoz from a guy who was hurting him to a guy who couldn't even figure out how to touch him. So, like, it was vintage Dom Cruz in every way. He showed you exactly why he was great and honestly still is. Credit to Dom. He reminded everyone who he is. And it's pretty cool that he's still relevant now going into 2022. And probably is going to be in a big fight.
At bantamweight, speaking of what that might B, in terms of that big fight, Omar, where would you want to see Cruz get matched up next at bantamweight?
Honestly, I kind of want to see him at this point against Dubashvili.
Why?
I think him versus Merab, I think is a crazy ass fight. I think you've got a guy, dude, you've got a guy in Dominick Cruz who's very difficult to touch when he's on his bike. When he is moving properly, that man is damn near impossible to catch. And then you're talking about a guy who's damn near impossible to stop you from getting caught. Merab is a forward freight train. And that guy, if he gets his hands on you, if he's able to wrap around you, his wrestling is a problem. Dominick Cruz is not a guy that's easily wrestled down. I'm super interested to see which crazy asshole comes out of that fight winning.
Mark, what about you at bantamweight? Where do you see Cruz going next?
Yeah, so I don't think that's that crazy simply because I feel like there's only a couple names that make sense because we know Dom is someone who's super adamant about only fighting people who are above him. He's always like, I'm trying to go up to the title. Why would I fight someone below me? So, like, even if a guy's one number below him, he's probably not going to take that fight. And for the guys that are above him, all we have is Jan and Aljo who are going to fight, TJ and Aldo, who I hope are going to fight. A lot of people were throwing out Aldo for Dom after this fight, which is a fight I've talked about on here before that I love, but it ain't the time. Like, TJ Aldo better be happening. I do not want that messed up. So assuming that's happening, then there's like Font and Sandhagen, but they both just lost. So would you do that? I don't know. I kind of think they should fight each other. So it really only leaves Merab and Vera. So personally, I like the Vera matchup better than the Merab matchup. I think Vera versus Dom would be a real cool fight. But if not that, then it's got to be Merab. I think it's one of those two guys personally.
We should mention that technically for the UFC's official rankings, Dominick Cruz is 7th. Vera is number 8.
Oh my God, really? That's stupid.
Yeah, Merab is 6, Cruz is 7, Marlon is 8.
Wow, okay. So maybe he won't. I did not even remotely expect him to jump Vera. That seems, I don't like that. Well, maybe it has to be Merab then.
Yeah, maybe. You guys want to say where do you think Munhoz might want to go next in terms of his next matchup?
I mean, he's lost 4 out of 5. Like, it's evident how good he is. Yeah. But he's lost 4 out of 5. Like that's not a great slide. Maybe if Raphael Assuncao loses to Ricky Simone this weekend, you could make that rematch. That was they fought a while back, had a close fight, and then whoever lost that one could like kind of be toast.
Yeah.
If not that, you got to kind of take him down a little bit at this point. Maybe like Julio Arce, someone like that. Like give him, someone who's not ranked.
Okay, let's move on. In the heavyweight division, Tai Tuivasa defeated Augusto Sakai via knockout with punches with leather at 26 seconds of round number 2. Mark, let me start with you. Tai Tuivasa, we get another knockout and we get another shoey. What were your impressions that you were left with from Tuivasa getting another knockout win?
Tai, my guy. So happy for Ty, man. That's a big step in his career. It's one that I thought he was ready for back when he got finished by JDS because I saw the talent, but he was clearly not. But he has worked on his game, both his mental and his physical. His patience and his fight IQ are noticeably better. His wrestling is better, especially in the clinch. He's so much calmer there now, and it has made him into such a better fighter. That was a huge KO for him. He's the man. And I'm very excited to see if he can make it any further up that heavyweight ladder. He's now reached the point where, like, in my head, I always thought Ty should be, if he could put it together, like right around where he's at now. Can he get into that next, like, top 5 echelon? I don't know if he can actually do that, but I'm excited to see him try.
Omar, what about you? What were your impressions that you were left with when Tuivasa got this knockout victory?
I like Tuivasa. I think he's fun. I'm just not sold on him as like a skilled fighter. Every time I see him fight, I just always feel like there's this coin that gets flipped. And it's either his punch that's going to land on the guy's face or somebody else's punch is going to land on his. And I don't feel like there's any real effort to make sure that he doesn't get hit with a punch. It just kind of happens that he doesn't. Okay. It just, I like I said, I love watching Tuivasa fight. I'm always going to be there to watch him fight. I guess I need to see it. I don't feel like there's not a lot of technique behind what he's doing. He's just going in there, brawling, and coming out on top, which, as Michael Bisping would say, God bless him.
Man, I thought he was outclassing Sakai. I really did.
Yeah, I mean, he had the forward pressure. He had him up against the cage. He was landing big shots for sure, but there's just no real elegance to the way he gets things done. He's just a steamroller.
I mean, look, we're going to find out. Like, his next fight is probably going to be against. So, I mean, I'll get into that. My name that I want to match him with is Jairzinho Rozenstruik.
Oh my God, really?
I think that would be dope. I mean, that's where he is. What is Ty ranked on the UFC rankings? He's got to be in the top 10. 11? That's weak. I got him at 9 in mine.
He's 11,
and I have Jairzinho at 6. Like, to me,
let's go.
I'm ready to take that step. Like, I want to put him in there with another killer, someone like that, and see what we got. And we'll find out exactly what Omar's saying. Like, is it a little bit of a mirage? Well, or can he really hang with guys like this?
You know why else? Because go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, if you put him up against somebody that has a little bit of technique, like Volkov, for example, I don't think there's a shot.
That feels like a lot.
But that's what I mean. Like, they're only one spot different between Volkov and Rozenstruik.
I know.
But the fight is so different just based on how these guys fight. Like, Volkov, I really feel like technique-wise would piece up.
I do too.
Tuivasa.
And that's why I'm not taking that big of a step.
I will say this too. You know, and when I'm looking right now at the top 15 of the heavyweight division,
I'm going to pull it up.
There aren't a ton of guys who are personalities. And Tai Tuivasa, with his shoeies and his smile and his sort of, I don't know, he's like an outgoing guy. He's kind of a star in the heavyweight picture. I mean, even guys that that are ranked right around him, you know.
I agree with that totally.
You know, even Sakai, the guy that he just beat. Sakai is a stoic, soft-spoken guy. Tom Aspinall, he's a great prospect. He's sort of a soft-spoken, polite guy.
Yeah.
Chris Daukaus, a guy who we're going to talk about a little bit later. You know, he's really climbing up the rankings. He's fighting Derrick Lewis next at this weekend. But you know, he's like a former cop, and he's a quiet guy. I don't think I've ever heard him speak yet. You know. Everybody knows Tai Tuivasa. To finish my point, everybody knows Tai Tuivasa. The guy is brash. He's outspoken. He's an Aussie. He gets on the cage. He does shoeies with his belly and his body tattoo.
Yes.
He's a fun personality, and I think he's somebody that the UFC would be smart to sort of push along up the rankings and get him in some really big fights.
That's why I think you go with someone like Rozenstruik. I think you nailed it. I see now that I'm looking at the rankings why he's 11 here and 9 in mine. It's because they have Abdurakhimov and Tybura ahead of him.
Right.
I don't like it at all. Like, Sakai beat Tybura. Like, well, I don't even understand the logic of that. So, yeah, didn't Sakai beat both of those guys? Maybe not Abdurakhimov. I don't know, but I don't like that. I think Ty should be ranked ahead of both of those guys.
Okay.
Derrick Lewis is probably the only other one in the heavyweight top 15 that has one of those superstar personalities. And it's just because the shit that comes out of that man's mouth is gold.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious.
Yeah. All right, let us go on now to our lightning round. If you don't know, folks, the lightning round is our not actually a game show segment of the show where I basically tell Mark and Omar to keep their takes to like 1, maximum 2 sentences. Which, gentlemen, past few episodes, you guys have been slacking.
Yeah, this is literally the
we did a lot of recapping there. Let's do a real lightning round
let's put the lightning back in the lightning round. So here we go. Let us conclude UFC 269 by throwing a handful of the rest of the bouts in the lightning round. Let us begin right now. Bruno Silva, round 1 TKO over Jordan Wright. Omar, go first.
That was painful to watch. Jordan Wright was winning that whole fight until he got knocked out. Damn it.
Mark, take it. Bruno Silva knocks out Jordan Wright.
I think what we're learning about Bruno Silva is that you shouldn't try to put him in danger. You should just sit back and try to point fight him, because if you press him, you're going to go to sleep. he's another guy that needs to absolutely move up at middleweight. He's looks like a beast.
At middleweight, Andre Munhoz defeats Eric Anders by submission via armbar. Mark, go first.
Munhoz can grapple. That is 3 straight subs. He is filthy. They're all in the first round. And if it's up to me, he's fighting a big name in his next fight. Absolutely.
Omar, go ahead, take it. Munhoz over Anders by armbar.
Yeah, I mean, Anders in no way is, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu phenom, but he's not. That was way too easy to be submitting Eric Anders the way that happened. I don't think I'll be picking against Munhoz in the near future.
At women's flyweight, Erin Blanchfield defeats Miranda Fear, the Maverick, by unanimous decision, 30-27 on all 3 judges' scorecards. Omar, take it.
That was a super impressive performance by Blanchfield. I had no idea she was that good on the ground. I'll be watching out for that girl.
Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, Erin Blanchfield is good.
Yeah.
Like good. Like that is someone to watch. That was dominant.
Yeah.
In the featherweight division, Ryan Hall gets back in the win column, earning a unanimous decision over Derrick Minner. Mark, take it first.
Fighting Ryan Hall just looks like it's one of the most stressful experiences imaginable. Like you go from fine to like, oh my God, my leg's almost getting torn off again in like a blink of an eye. Like it's just, I can't even imagine what it feels like to fight him, but good win for him to get back on the right side of things.
Omar, take it. Hall gets back in the win column.
Yeah, I would hate to roll on the ground with Ryan Hall and just not be able to reach him and bash him in the head. I felt bad for Derrick Minner, but at the same time, it's so impressive to watch Ryan Hall beat somebody basically without hitting them. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
In the stacked bantamweight division, Tony Kelly defeats the very exciting Randy Costa by TKO with elbows in round number 2. Omar, go first.
If you've ever wondered what a lawnmower would do to somebody, that was pretty much what this was. Tony Kelly was the lawnmower. Randy Costa was just a corpse. And it just felt like Tony Kelly ran this boy over for 2 rounds. It was crazy.
Mark, what do you make of Kelly's impressive performance over Costa?
Yeah, Tony Kelly is a dog, which I did not know prior to that fight. I wish that he told us because I might have picked him.
I bet Randy wished he knew before he walked in there.
But Randy may have a bit of a gassing problem that he needs to address.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And finally, at a catchweight bout, which was supposed to be at women's flyweights, the jiu-jitsu machine Jillian Robertson defeated Priscilla Cachoeira by submission via rear naked choke. Mark, go first.
You said it, man. Great work from Jillian Robinson. I love her because she is such a finisher. Like if she has a grappling advantage in a fight, she is going for the kill the entire time. That's 6 subs or 6 finishes, I should say, in her 7 victories in the UFC. And yeah, if you're at a disadvantage to her on the ground, you're in trouble.
Oh yeah. Omar, finish us up. Take us home. Jillian Robertson gets another sub over Cachoeira.
Jillian Robinson's gutty as hell. Priscilla Cachoeira, boo. Boo to you eye gouging, terrible person. Boo. That's all I got.
Oh yeah. Okay, that concludes the lightning round. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was really nasty. Did they retaliate against her, the UFC?
No. So I'll give you 1, especially when things are getting crazy. You don't get 2. 2 was way too much.
Yeah,
I didn't care for that.
Now, if you're the ref, Omar, we know that you have expressed a few times, refereeing aspirations on the show. If you're the ref of that bout, do you stop the fight? Because she's in a dominant position.
I'll be honest, dude. I've been thinking about that. I've been racking my brain about what you would really do in that moment. And I'll be honest, I don't even know if it's the right answer. My initial instinct, you slap her hand. You slap it away from that girl's face. I mean, I definitely would not have stopped the fight for sure. I definitely would not have broken up the position, but I definitely would not have allowed her hand to stay there as long as it did and get as close to her eyes. I mean, that girl was here, not like touching her eye. Like she was,
she was going for it, man.
Jillian had to move her face away in order to get the eye, or in order to get the thumb out of her eye twice. I think at that point, it was the referee's job, the same way he takes out people's fingers from in between the cage. I think that was his
slap it away.
responsibility to like move it or slap it away from her face or something like that. But I've honestly been racking my brain about what the right course of action would have been. Nothing was not it, but something should have been done.
I mean, could the ref like put one finger up to take a point away while she's getting choked out?
I've never seen that happen, but like I'm not necessarily against that being a thing.
Right? Like, why not?
I honestly wish they bring back red cards and yellow cards, personally.
Yeah.
But I know we're gonna get back into that pride conversation. So let's not go down that rabbit hole.
All right, let's now hop into the next segment and put a bow on UFC 269 by finding out from Mr. Priaulx who has risen and who has fallen from our Priaulx rankings. Mark, take it away.
So we had no real noteworthy falls coming off of this card. We did have some who rose big enough that it's worth mentioning. The first, obviously, Julianna Pena goes from my number 4 women's bantamweight to the bantamweight champion of the world. Sean O'Malley, I had him at 19. He finally cracks my top 15 at number 15 at bantamweight, coming off of that KO. Tuivasa, as I mentioned, he was my number 16 heavyweight. Finally makes the jump that a lot of people thought he was capable of. He's now my number 9 heavyweight. Erin Blanchfield and her dominance. She was my number 39 women's flyweight. Hadn't really proven anything yet. Now all the way up to number 20 off of that performance, beating a pretty hyped prospect in Miranda Maverick.
Yeah, man.
And then lastly, Tony Kelly, who we just mentioned, kind of legitimizing himself with that win over Randy Costa at bantamweight. He was my number 68. He now goes up to 54. That is it. It's a quick one.
Thank you, sir. And that does it. Congrats one more time to the Venezuelan vixen, Julianna Pena, brand new women's bantamweight champion. Enjoy your week on the marquee, Pena. That does it, guys. Let us now, before we move on to our next segment, remind our audience, like, subscribe, YouTube, podcasts, all the things. Find us on social media at @new_MMA show. With that being said, guys, let us march on into our next segment, Inside the MMA Sphere. Omar, let's make it a quick one because we still have plenty to talk about. What do you got going on in the headlines in the MMA sphere?
All right, so we're going to make it quick. There's honestly not a lot going on. There's not a ton of new fight announcements at this point. The biggest thing that's really been going down is really just the updates with Khabib's fighting championship at this point, Eagle FC. So currently it looks like they're going to be having a 155, a 165, and a 175 pound division. Starting off their 165 pound division is going to be their new signing, which is Kevin Lee.
Big signing.
Big signing to their new promotion. He's going to be launching the 165 pound division against who is obviously still to be determined. But that's a big signing. It looks like there's a lot of mutual respect between Khabib and Kevin Lee going into that. So that's interesting to see. Very interested to see how that goes down, because that might be the gateway that we all need to get these weight classes the way that they should be. So
yes,
that would be cool.
I love that someone is doing it. And I love that Kevin Lee is getting to fight at the weight class he should be fighting at. That never existed, but now it does. Yeah.
And that was also what Khabib was actually referencing to Dustin Poirier, was that if he wants to join, he wants to come into the 165 pound division, he's more than welcome to. The door is always open to him. So if Dustin ever does decide to leave the UFC for whatever reason, that might be an interesting way to go about doing things.
I wonder how much money is behind Eagle FC.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
It seems like they're making some big moves.
Yeah.
And Khabib is rich as shit. So who knows what kind of investments he's had in place for a little while now to make all this stuff possible. So
he's rich as shit to us.
Yeah.
He's not rich as shit compared to
correct
UFC owners or Bellator owners.
Sure.
Right.
He doesn't have I don't think he has Fertitta money.
Yeah.
Right. So next on the list, Daniel Cormier has been taking quite a beating in the last week or so. Dominick Cruz, he blames it now post-fight on his hunger and the fact that he was cutting weight. But he was asked about, the commentators and how he feels about working with the commentators and, who he listens to. And he gave praise to John Anik and to Joe Rogan. and then like kind of completely shit on Daniel Cormier and threw some nice things in there, but for the most part, basically said Daniel Cormier doesn't do his job and he hates listening to him and he mutes him anytime he gets a chance to. As one would imagine, when your coworker publicly shits on you, there's bound to be some sort of problem. So there was during, Daniel Cormier does a lot of these interviews with fighters leading up to these events. Obviously, Dominick Cruz, being a commentator as well as a fighter, was in one of these interviews, and they tried to like hash it out and go through it together. And basically what we came out finding out was Daniel Cormier doesn't do, or according to him, now he does, but at one point for a long stretch of time did not do his own research for fights, paid somebody to do research and write notes for him that he then used on broadcast. I have noticed that a lot of the things he says can be very general, almost like somebody who barely knows specifically who they're talking about. I don't mind it personally because that's not really what I go to Daniel Cormier for. Daniel Cormier at this point for me is just fun guy to listen to. He's kind of like Michael Bisping, where like they're just personalities that I just like listen when they get crazy about things. Dominick Cruz has proven himself to be very, very analytical when it comes to things, but that dude is hella boring to listen to.
Like, you think just gonna say I would rather listen to DC than Cruz.
Holy shit, Dominick Cruz, I could put a tape on of him and go to sleep. Like, he's super smart and he breaks things down in a great way, but that's all he does. There is no there's no ice cream with the meal.
I will say this.
You know what I mean?
I think DC Cormier, he definitely adds more excitement to a broadcast.
Yeah. 100%. I actually like when both of them work together because they kind of play off of each other in a lot of those different respects. Daniel Cormier tends to be a lot more fun, while Dominick Cruz tends to try to be a lot more analytical. They tend to get into a lot of tidbits when they're on the broadcast together, and now I'm pretty sure why. But apparently this has been going on for a long time. Cormier says he doesn't watch tape, at least not nearly as much as Dominick Cruz does. I'm sure he probably browses things here and there, but I would imagine Dominick Cruz is probably sitting down for a few hours watching people's fights and things like that. And it doesn't sound like Cormier puts in the same work.
Mark, are you team DC or team DC?
I'm team Cormier on this. I mean, it's whatever. Maybe Cruz is telling the truth. So I don't think we needed to air it like at a press conference.
It seems like such a weird.
Well, yeah, I'd rather listen to DC than Cruz anyway. Like, sick knockouts happen, and Cruz will be like, "That knockout occurred because of the step to the left that drew to the event." And I'm like, "All right, like, that's not what I need right now." Like, yell.
You want to hear Thug Rose, Thug Rose, Thug Rose,
like,
right?
Yes,
exactly.
Thug Rose.
Yes. And it just for me, like, I enjoy listening to Cruz, but it has to come with something else. Like, he's not a flavor in and of itself.
Oh, that's interesting. He might be influencing my take on Cruz. I've always really enjoyed Cruz and his analytical style. I mean, I think the UFC has done such a great job of setting themselves up for the post-Rogan version of the UFC.
I agree.
They have done such a great job of developing their own in-house stable, a whole stable now of color guys. They have a Bisping's great. Bisping might be the best.
I love Bisping. Love him.
I also really enjoyed Dan Hardy when they had him there. Some kind of falling out there
now, but
Paul Felder's great.
Yep.
I love listening to Cruz. Cruz is super smart. I do love DC.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think anybody does more research than Dominick.
And obviously, Anik is incredible.
Oh, but I mean, he's commentary. He's
right. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Anik is great, and Brendan Fitzgerald is great too. The whole team is great, man.
Yeah.
I don't have any guys that I could pick out and be like, I don't like listening to him.
Yeah. Lorisenko apparently is looking forward to potentially joining the broadcast team in 2022, which I think would make her the first female broadcaster for the UFC.
That's cool.
She's good.
First female commentator, for the UFC.
Doing color.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Which would be dope.
Is Megan O'Leary, does she have aspirations to get on the table, or does she want to stay on the sidelines as a reporter?
I don't think so.
It seems like she's content where she is. Lorisenko is the one who's got the reputation for, like, I'm not doing enough, give me fucking more to do, and she's taking on as many roles as she can.
Good for her, man.
Yeah, good for her, man.
Also,
one thing I know about Laura Sanko is she takes the sport seriously and she knows what she's talking about. So I'm down. I'm down for her to join. That's cool.
Yeah, and if I could just heap praise on one more person, how good is Megan Olivier at what she does? Every time she's on camera, I'm like, she is so good at what she does.
Dude, Megan Olivier is an integral part of that team. I think just as much as anybody else, like Joe Rogan, DC, any of them.
Yeah, man. All right, what else you got?
That's pretty much it for the drama and the news. But yeah. Oh, by the way, Cruz, it was really about the public thing. Cruz just shouldn't have said that shit in public. That was more than anything. He's probably right about everything he said. I don't doubt any of it, frankly. Sure. You don't, especially if you're friends. It would be one thing if like they weren't friends and they were only coworkers and he was like, fuck,
that would be a dick move. Yeah.
But they're friends too. Like, that's a dick move, bro. Like, you know, my friend. Anyway, that's it
in the interest of time. If we're about to hop into fight announcements, in the interest of time, can you just do like the biggest fights?
There's only like 4 or 5.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Derek Brunson versus Jared Cannonier is now going to be moved to 271 in February. That was at 270 before. So that's just a major change there. Alex Perez versus Matt Schnell is also rescheduled for 271. So they're going to be on the same card.
Oh, nice.
Gegard Mousasi versus Austin Vanderford. For those of you who can't remember who Austin Vanderford is for whatever reason, that is Mr. Van Zant. Excuse me, that middleweight title, Bellator title fight will be February 25th. Mike Grundy versus Marwan Amirkhani has been added to March 19th fight night. That's going to be a hell of a fight. And with some controversy, Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker 2 is official for UFC 271. Israel apparently says that that's lies. UFC responded in the worst way by saying, when do we ever lie? That's probably not the way they should have went about that. But as of right now, we're going to go with it's official until we see something else. And that's all I got for you boys.
We've been waiting for that fight forever.
Yeah, right. That does it for the Sphere.
That's it.
Okay. Let us now turn towards the final segment of the show where we look ahead to this coming weekend. UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Daukaus. Derrick, the Black Beast, Lewis is welcoming in Chris Daukaus, not to be confused with his brother Kyle Daukaus. Guys, let's talk about this really important heavyweight matchup. This would be easily the biggest win of Chris Daukaus' career. Mark, let me start with you. What are your thoughts about this matchup that's coming up?
So this is a great fight. Chris Daukaus has certainly been good enough that he deserves this. I'm a little surprised to see that he's the favorite. He is minus 140. Derrick Lewis is plus 115. That seems a bit much to me, and I personally think that Derrick Lewis is going to turn him back. Chris Daukaus is real. His hands are nasty, both in speed and in power, and he's going to get to box here unless he himself tries to wrestle, because you know Lewis is in there to box. But Chris Daukaus gets hit. Like, he eats some shots in order to land his own. And that's a bad problem to have when the guy hitting you is Derrick Lewis. I think maybe a little too much shine has come off Derrick Lewis just because of the way that Cyril Gane blew him out. But I think he gets this done. It may not be easy. He may have to eat a few himself, but I think the big bomb is there. I think Daukaus is kind of there to be hit. And I think he puts him down. I'm going to say Derrick Lewis round 2 KO.
Omar, do you have a pick for us for Chris Daukaus and Derrick Lewis?
Yeah. I think that's pretty accurate. I think Derrick Lewis is still a very, very dangerous person. I think this is a pretty big move for Chris Daukaus to go up this high against Derrick Lewis right away. I do see Derrick Lewis walking away with a KO victory, but I'm going to say 3rd round KO.
I think Derrick Lewis is going to make a lot of people a lot of money, because that is a live dog right there, my friends. Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I think we are unanimous on this one. I'm going to take Lewis by knockout. I'll go 1st round. Fuck it.
There you go. We got rounds 1, 2, and 3. We'll see who hits. Or it'll be none of us because of lose.
Yeah, right. Okay, in the co-main event of this card, we have a great matchup happening at welterweight. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson takes on Belal Muhammad. Man, what a nice fight. Another huge step up for the guy fighting out of the blue corner, Belal Muhammad. This would be the biggest win of his career. Absolutely no question. Omar, let me start with you on this one. What is your take on this upcoming welterweight bout?
I'm terrified for Belal Muhammad. This seems like a terrible matchup for Belal Muhammad. He's generally, I feel like he's a striker and tends to favor the stand-up game. And I just feel like trying to do that against Stephen Thompson is just kind of like a recipe to get your ass beat. I also think the size difference, the height difference and things like that, especially considering how much Stephen Thompson likes to use his legs, is going to make a difference in the end. Mm-hmm. Belal Muhammad is game as they come, though. So I definitely don't count him out, but I see Stephen Thompson winning this third round KO.
Okay. Mark, Wonderboy versus Belal, you got a pick for us?
Yes. So Wonderboy is the favorite here, minus 230. Belal is plus 190. I wish I had more to say about this one because it's two top 10 fighters and they are the co-main event, but kind of like Omar, I just find this one pretty straightforward. Like, I like Belal and he's tough as hell. I just haven't seen anything in his career that makes me think he can figure out Wonderboy. I don't think he has the right set of tools to cause him any trouble. I think Wonderboy will frustrate him. I think he'll pick him apart in a very similar manner to what he did to Vicente Luque or to Geoff Neal. I think it looks a lot like those two fights. I'll say Wonderboy by unanimous decision.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, I agree. I think I see an easy decision victory for Wonderboy in this one. I think he's going to fight at his range. He's going to piece up Belal Muhammad, unfortunately, because I like Belal. I really like him a lot at welterweight.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's a cool dude.
Women's strawweight, Amanda Lemos takes on the always game, the always tough Angela Hill. Friday Night Fights alum, shout out Angela Hill. Thank you so much. That's the promotion where I got my start ring announcing. Guys, Angela Hill coming off of a tough loss against Tecia Torres, and she's taking on the streaking Amanda Lemos, who I believe is bringing a 4-fight win streak into the octagon. Mark, let me start with you. What is your take on this women's strawweight matchup?
Yeah, so Lemos is a huge favorite here. She's minus 385. Angela Hill's plus 290, which honestly feels like it might be a little too wide. The question when picking this fight is simply whether you believe Amanda Lemos is real. None of her 4 wins are against anyone who's on the level of an Angela Hill, and she did lose to Leslie Smith. So, it's kind of, you don't have something to grab to be like, well, she did do this to this girl, but she looks hella good right now. Angela Hill, as we know, has a lot of skills. And if I told you that Angela Hill wasn't going to get caught, she'd probably be the pick to win on the cards. Unfortunately, I do think that she gets caught. Hill is solid defensively, but I'm just really impressed with Lemos right now. I think she's scary. I think that she either hurts Hill on the feet and follows her to the ground or simply takes her down to the ground. And I think it ends there with ground and pound in favor of Lemos. I'll say round 2 TKO.
Omar, what's your pick? Lemos versus Overkill Hill.
Yeah, this one sucks because I really like Angela Hill and, been a big fan of hers for a while. But looking at the skills side by side, I frankly just think Lemos is a better fighter at this point. And it really sucks to say that. Like, I want Hill to be better. And while she has a lot of skills and things like that, I think she still hasn't found the perfect combination of how to put it all together. And I think the real problem is when you have somebody like Lemos, who is a very dangerous striker, Hill tends to, after a certain point, fight with a certain instinct to shell up and just sort of throw and kind of keep a certain pace and keep a certain momentum and rhythm. But it's not really going to win the fight, and it's not really going to put the other fighter in danger. And I just think Lemos has a lot more damage coming from her side than Hill does. I would say I'll go with Lemos by decision. Unanimous decision.
I'm going to go with my girl, Angela Hill. I talk like I know her personally. I do not. Angela Hill, I love her Muay Thai. I think she has lost a few close split decisions. Even her fight with Tecia Torres was competitive. I think this fight is going to be close, and I'm going to say Hill gets a win by a split. And that is the pick. In the bantamweight division, Raphael Assuncao takes on Ricky Simón. Guys, both of these guys are bringing 3-fight streaks into this matchup. Raphael Assuncao coming off of a 3-fight losing streak. Ricky Simon coming in with a 3-fight winning streak. Of course, Raphael Assuncao, those 3 fights that he lost were to pretty much the upper echelon of bantamweight, and Ricky Simon, you would say, is sort of more on the rise. His wins coming against Ray Borg, Gaetano Perello, and Brian Boom Kelleher. Omar, let me start with you. One guy seems to be kind of on a skid. One guy's kind of on the rise. Who do you like? Assuncao versus Simon.
I think the matchup is very interesting, especially when we talk about their skill sets. It would be interesting to see Ricky Simon want to take down Raphael Assuncao and play with him on the ground and kind of see where the jiu-jitsu game of Assuncao comes into play against Ricky Simon's wrestling. Standing up, I personally feel like Raphael probably has the advantage, albeit a very maybe small one. Ricky Simon's hands are very, very good, but I think that Assuncao probably has the edge there. I think all in all, on paper, Assuncao would probably have the edge over Ricky Simon. I wouldn't be surprised for a minute if Ricky Simon ends up with his hand raised by the end of that fight. However, with what I have to know, I'm going to go with Raphael Assuncao by decision.
Mark, what about you? Who do you like, Assuncao or Ricky Simon?
Yeah, I like this matchup. It's a good one. Ricky Simon's a pretty big favorite. He's minus 275, and Raphael Assuncao is plus 220.
He's a favorite?
Simon is the favorite, yeah. There was a time where Assuncao was ranked as high as, like, I want to say, like, number 3 at bantamweight. He was up there. But as you said, he's lost 3 straight. He still hasn't even fought since the Cody Garbrandt KO, which was a year and a half ago, which makes him pretty hard to trust at 39 years of age. I mean, we know his game. He's certainly no easy fight. His defensive grappling could absolutely bother Simon. As Omar mentioned, Simon is someone who likes to rely on the wrestling. And the question is, do you really want to play with that? Mm-hmm. Assuncao is a clever striker. So it almost makes me wonder, is Simon going to have to go the wrestling route? Which I could see. And maybe he's safe there. It's not like Assuncao is like some guaranteed submission. And Simon has some grappling himself. But I'm interested to see how this fight ends up playing out. I do feel like it's really close skill for skill. But with it being that close, I kind of got to look for X factors. And Simon is 2 inches taller. He has 2.5 inch reach advantage. He's the larger guy. He's the stronger guy. He's 10 years younger. He's been more active. It's just a lot in the corner of Simon when you look at the X factors. So I will say it's a competitive fight. I will say that Simon is able to wrestle somewhat and that it's enough that it makes the difference for a decision win.
Okay. Let's march on in the lightweight division. Carlos Diego Ferreira takes on Mateusz Garbrandt. Once again, both fighters coming in with 2-fight streaks. Ferreira coming in with the 2-fight back-to-back losses against Beneil Dariush and Gregor Gillespie, and Garbrandt coming in riding a 2-fight win streak against Scott Holtzman and Jeremy Lil Heathen Stevens. Mark, let me start with you. Who do you like in this matchup, Ferreira or Garbrandt?
It's a close one. It's a tight one. The odds are a little wider than I thought they'd be, but they're fairly close. Mateusz Garbrandt is the favorite. He's minus 190. Diego Ferreira is plus 160. Garbrandt is a guy who is 19-1, and he's arguably even 20-0 if you score the Guram Kutateladze. Wow, let's try that again. Guram Kutateladze fight.
I wouldn't even try. It's okay.
For him, it was a close fight. That's his only loss. He has good striking. He has good grappling. He has good cardio. He's strong. He's a guy who doesn't really seem to have many weaknesses. Granted, this is a big test here. He's certainly moving up fighting Ferreira. The only guys who have beaten Ferreira in the UFC are Dustin Poirier, Beneil Dariush, and Gregor Gillespie. That's a pretty solid group there to be your only losses. He's well-rounded himself. It will be interesting to see where this fight takes place because I could kind of see both guys thinking like, oh, I'm better than him here. I'm better than him here. But they're both kind of pretty good everywhere. Mm-hmm. So that'll be interesting. Oddly enough, Ferreira is the shorter fighter by 2 inches, but he will have a 3.5 inch reach advantage. So that kind of even contributes more to the evenness that I'm feeling. It's just a really close fight. They're both well-rounded guys. I think Garbrandt is stronger. which in a fight that feels this close to me, that might be a factor. And I think maybe he's a little slicker striking. So I will go with him to win the decision.
Omar, you got to pick for us, Ferreira or Garbrandt?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Garbrandt as well. I'm honestly, from a lot of the reasons that Mark really just laid out, especially considering that he's very well rounded. He's got wins kind of in all different shapes and sizes, KO, submissions, decisions. I just think he's a very, very dangerous fighter, very strong fighter. I don't see personally Ferreira being able to catch him in anywhere, as good as Ferreira is. And I think I'm going to go with Garbrandt by decision.
Okay. Two more, gentlemen. In the featherweight in the featherweight division, we have a very fun fight. Two veterans. We have Cub Swanson taking on Darren the Damage Elkins. I love these guys. What a fun fight. We have Cub Swanson coming in off of a loss against Giga Chikadze, of course, and Darren the Damage riding a 2-fight win streak, most recently defeating Derrick Minner at UFC Fight Night at Santiago versus Dillashaw back in July. Omar, let me start with you. Fun fight. Who do you like?
Yeah, so this is one of those fights where you keep reminding yourself that, like, as much as you want to not think Darren Elkins is going to win, it's totally possible he's going to win.
Oh, for sure.
The man guts out every win I've ever seen him gut out, or every win I've seen him have. As good as Cub Swanson is, the man could be winning for 2.5 rounds, 2 rounds, 2 3/4 rounds, and Darren Elkins can still win the fight. I love Cub Swanson, though. I'm not prepared to be picking against Cub Swanson. And so for that reason, I will pick a decision because I'm tired of not being right about Darren Elkins getting knocked out. So I'll go with Cub Swanson by decision.
Mark, you got a pick for us? Swanson or the Damage, Darren Elkins?
Killer Cub versus the Damage, baby. It feels like we're in like 2016. Cub is the favorite here. He's minus 210. Elkins is plus 170. Obviously, Cub has lost 5 out of 7, but they were all the really good fighters. And from where I sit, I really don't think Cub looks bad. Like, I think he's still got it. I think he's just not on that elite level anymore, but like edge of the rankings type level, I think he's still there. And Elkins ain't that anymore. He is, as Omar said, a maniac, and it's hard to pick against him because he can just win fights when he has no business winning them. But I think Cub is like the correct type of opponent to not get Elkins. He's capable on the ground. He's the much better striker. He won't gas like a lot of guys do against Elkins. He has the fight IQ needed. He's seen every kind of style in that cage, being the veteran that he is. I think Cub stays patient. I don't think he rushes or lets it get crazy, and I think he kind of picks Darren Elkins apart. I will say Cub Swanson unanimous decision.
Okay, let us conclude this preview, gentlemen, by reaching down into the prelims of this fight night card and just highlighting one fight, and then we'll get out of here. Let's talk about the women's bantamweight matchup between Raquel Pennington and Macy Chaston. Raquel, the vet, and Macy, I think, is more of an up-and-comer. She is the one bringing in the 7-1 record, coming off of a 2-fight win streak. Raquel is also coming off of a 2-fight win streak. That being said, Mark, who do you like in this matchup between Pennington and Chasson?
So this is a fun fight that got randomly put together. It was Raquel Pennington versus Julia Avila until about a week ago. But Macy steps in. Pennington is the favorite, minus 190. Chasson is plus 155. Raquel is one of those people who I feel like a lot of people don't pick for whatever reason, whereas I always do, unless she's like facing the elite, and it has pretty much worked out for me. She's just very seasoned and tough and knows how to win fights. But with that said, she is a decision fighter, so she does walk a bit of a tightrope where at some point it feels like one of these maybe won't go her way. This could be the one. Chasson is going to have a big size advantage, 2 inches of height, 4.5 inches of reach. I could see that play a factor. Then you could say, like, maybe it's not going to matter that much against Raquel because she wins her fights by holding you against the cage. So it's limiting that size. But on that note, Chasson is taking this fight on a week's notice. And because of that, they're letting it happen at 145 instead of 135. So Chasson, who has the naturally bigger frame now, who wasn't cutting, is going to get to cut to 145 and rehydrate and probably be pretty big. Whereas Raquel was already cutting, already planning to be at 135. And now she's just kind of letting herself be 145. So I think that could actually play a factor in kind of negating the strength advantage for Raquel, because I think Chasson will be pretty big. We will see. But I was torn anyway, and just that little tidbit, I kind of think I'm going to say this is the time where someone who is not in these like top three actually gets Raquel. I'll say it's a close fight, but I'll say Macy breaks through with a decision win.
Omar, bring us home. Who do you like in this matchup between Chasson and Pennington?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that's to note about Raquel is that most of her fights, if not all of her fights, have been against people who are significantly better than her. And I think there's been always like a significant gap in the way that those fights are going. And the reason I bring that up is because I'm not necessarily sure that Chasson is there at that point. Where she's that much better than Raquel Pennington is. I do think Raquel Pennington has a ceiling. I don't necessarily think that she's going to be a champion somewhere down the line. But with Chasson having a lot more potential, I don't necessarily think that she's there right now. So I'm going to go with Raquel Pennington by unanimous decision.
Nice. Well, gentlemen, we've done it again. Almost 2 hours, guys. Nice.
Yeah.
Listen, that card had to be done. That card was a thing of legend.
Yeah, it had to be talked about. But this card's pretty solid this Saturday to close out the year. There's even there's some other names like Gerald Mearshart is fighting.
Yeah.
Hony Barcelos is fighting. Sijara Eubanks is fighting. They're just all kind of fights that you would think they win, which is why we didn't preview them for you guys. But it's a pretty deep card. It's a solid card this Saturday.
Yeah.
And we won't have another card until January 15th from the UFC.
Yep.
So this will be our end of year card, guys. L'chaim.
We will be back to recap it next week.
Facts.
But with that being said, one last time, folks, thank you so much for joining us. Like and subscribe. We're on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We got you there. Find us on social media. Get at us. If you like our takes, if you hate our takes, let us know at @new_MMA show. With that being said, gentlemen, any parting shots?
I need my trivia. Why are you so bad at remembering this?
I always forget. I forget about it. It's not in the show notes.
You got to just make it part of the show at this point. Just add it to the list.
Do I even have one? Let's see.
While you're doing that, I'm going to remind people that they need to go watch Spider-Man this weekend. Don't play games. It's a big deal. For all you nerds out there, you know it's a big deal. All the nerds probably have their tickets already, like I did from 2 weeks ago now at this point.
I didn't even know it. I should bring Lucas.
If you can find tickets.
Yeah, valid. I'll wait a week.
Yeah.
Or two.
You totally should, though. This looks, dude, this Spider-Man looks so dope.
Okay.
All right, the show's gone too long. We have to cut it.
Here we go. Anderson Silva. Did I do this one last week? Shit,
nope.
I hope I didn't.
No, you didn't.
Okay, good. Everybody knows who Anderson Silva fought and beat in his first fight in the UFC.
Sure.
Oh.
Chris Levin.
Yeah, you're going to say who's the second?
No.
Oh.
I mean, that could be a question. Who? Oh, what do I want to ask here? I forgot what I wanted to ask. There's a few things. Some of them would be silly. Like, who's the first guy who beat Anderson Silva?
Oh.
Nobody knows. It's his third fight in his career.
Yeah, I know.
You know? Have you seen this fight?
It's the dude from Pride, right? Didn't he catch him in a knee bar?
Oh my god. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't remember his name. I'm pretty sure he's Japanese too.
Unless this is Anderson Silva's second loss, but it's the one in Pride, the flying freaking
flying scissor heel hook.
Yes.
Wait. Was this?
Oh, that's his second loss?
That is his third loss.
Oh, really?
Yes. He lost his third fight of his career by decision for a promotion called Mecca.
To whomst?
Luis Azeredo. Another Brazilian guy. He also lost to Yushin Okami. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And then he won 1 million fights in a row.
Yeah. So wait. So the Pride loss was his third career loss?
That is correct.
Dude, I can't believe I can't think of this guy's name. It's making me crazy.
Rio Chonan. Chonan.
Ah. God, yeah. That's getting old right there. That's what the mind does. Yeah, Rio Chonan.
I haven't thought about that name in a really long time, to be honest. I wouldn't have gotten that.
So was that your question? Or did we get into a side question?
We'll call that the question.
All right.
With you guys, it's hard. It's either because either the question is going to be so stupidly easy or it has to be like so stupidly difficult. Anyhow, that does it. We're 2 hours. Let us get out of here.
All righty.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Peace.
Peace.